Hello, welcome back to 9 Little Aussies. I'm Chrissy. I'm in my garden today and I'm going to be talking a little bit today about garden disappointments. They do happen. This is the reality. And I guess sometimes it can be really crushing. It can be really devastating when something dies that you've been just waiting for. Sometimes it's things in our control, sometimes it's things out of our control. Sometimes it's ignorance, something we didn't know. There's always learning in the garden. But sometimes it's just something that no matter what, you couldn't have done anything about it. And I've had a few disappointments in the garden, a lot in the garden over the years, but a few lately. And so I thought I would just share them with you. There is lots I'm really excited about in the garden this year. These sunflowers are just blessing my heart every time I look at them. They're just gorgeous, aren't they? So cheerful, and I love sunflowers. But these beans. Now, these beans, I've mentioned them before, they're a bit of a mystery to me. I'm not sure exactly what's going on because I have pole beans on this side and I have bush beans on this side, both growing in the exact same soil. The bush beans are doing really well. They're full, they're producing, we're picking beans off them every day. They're beautiful and tasty and sweet. And these beans, which I wasn't expecting to be ready just yet, but the plants themselves are struggling. Now, as I said, I've said this a few times, I know, but I really feel like this entire garden season is a bit of a gamble and an experiment for me, because this is my first ever season gardening in Texas. This is my first ever season gardening in America. It's a brand new country. It's a brand new climate. A lot of new plants, a lot of new weeds, a lot of new bugs, a lot of new everything. It's just a lot of new. A lot of things I don't know about gardening here. So I have pretty much said to myself, this season is a big experiment. This season is a big, I guess I'm not really dipping my toe in the water. I'm kind of more like diving in the deep end and just seeing what happens and doing my best to learn from everything that does happen and set myself up to be, oh, okay, now I know I don't do that and I do that. So I don't know, it's just definitely been a learning curve. But I am not sure what's going on. So this is this is a disappointment to me, these beans. To be truthful, I don't even know what kind of a harvest I'm going to get, if I'm going to get much of a harvest at all from these. The leaves are crinkling a lot. And the heads, there's a few tiny signs of attempts at flowering, but like, look at this, it just looks terrible. It does not look good at all, and I'm not sure why. So I have done my best to amend this soil. I've been putting worm juice on it. I've put worm castings on it. I'm making sure it's watered regularly, and the truth is I'm not really sure. So I'm just going to wait it out and see if we get anything from it or not. These are Kentucky Wonder, I believe, which is a variety I haven't grown before. But like I said, the bush beans on the other side of this structure are growing really well with no problems, and the foliage looks great. So sometimes you will have disappointments in the garden and you'll be like, I don't know what happened. Like, I really don't know. And sometimes you'll get the answer in a couple of years down the track when you learn something, and sometimes you'll never know. Like, that's just the reality. So that is one disappointment I have had. And we're still waiting to see how that plays out, because yeah, I don't really have an answer for that yet. Another little disappointment has been this little area here. I don't know, maybe if I pull back, I'll try and give you a visual on this. So this end of the garden, I don't know if you can see, is quite a degree more lush, green and thriving. We get to about here, and from here, let me see, down to about here, this little section here is struggling. And then it picks up again and we're doing better down that end. So, educated guess, I'm thinking soil. My approach to gardening is really about building the soil, and that's where my main emphasis usually is. I kind of picture it like a cake, and the cake itself is the soil, and the plants on the surface are the icing. And yes, we like the icing. It tastes really good and it's yummy. And if you're like me, when I was a kid, I would always try and get the bit with the most icing on it. But the actual depth of and richness of the cake is the actual cake, which is the soil. And so I try to put all my emphasis into building the soil. So obviously this is a first season here in this garden. I put these beds in really quickly with the available resources we had, but there is definitely an issue here in this little midsection. So a disappointment, yes, and also a learning, something I'm going to have to focus my attention on before the next time I plant along here in building that soil. Another little disappointment that I am handling right now is my tomatoes. Now, I will say the cherry tomatoes have been delicious and we've been feasting on the cherries. I think the ones along here that have done really well are called a honeycomb hybrid. The ones along this fence that have done quite well are sort of a medium size, about yay big. And again, they're a hybrid. Interesting. They're a hybrid and they're doing really well, and we've already harvested a bunch of those. But I have some heirloom variety, bigger ones that are splitting. Let me see. And see, they're getting pest damage and splitting. Let me pull this one up. I already chucked one to the chooks, and do you see all the fruit fly around that? Like, these are not ripe, but full of fruit fly, and just they're not good. They're not healthy. So there has been leaf curl also along here in this same bed. So it would stand to reason that there's a soil issue going on here. I mean, I'm not a tomato expert, but I have grown tomatoes in the past, obviously not here. So this one is going to go to the chooks. Look at them little dinosaurs. So yeah, definitely a little bit disappointed with my larger tomatoes. These ones are delicious and they are just doing so well. Now, the ones that are thriving are the hybrid varieties. And it is true that oftentimes the heirloom varieties will struggle a bit more with pest pressure and disease. Yeah, it's possible that something is going on there disease-wise. It's so good, so yummy. So, excuse me, while I indulge in a garden treat. I'm gonna have to, with this disappointment, I'm gonna have to learn I'm going to have to ask around for local knowledge, maybe dig a little bit deeper, do a little bit of research, because there are beautiful big fruit on these, but they're not thriving, they're not doing well. Now the reality is, in my experience at least, I love gardening. I've gardened for a number of years, but every single season, every time I garden, there is something that doesn't go great. There's something that is somewhat of a disappointment. And I guess one of my ways of dealing with that is just managing my expectations. So having an expectation that I'm going to grow all these things, and this year I'm probably going to learn something new, because something new will go wrong, something new will happen. There'll be I might have different successes and different failures every season, and I just adjust my expectation that will be the case. That is par for the course when you are gardening. And I guess I'm having to just amp that up a little bit when I'm gardening in a brand new country and I really have no idea what to expect. So there's, I don't know what's going on here with my big beefy tomatoes. I don't know what's going on with my beans, but I just thought I would share with you that, hey, this is real life. My garden is definitely not perfect. My garden has flaws and things that are not going great. And then it has things that are going fantastic and that I'm really excited about. And to be honest, I just think that's part of gardening. Now, there may be some perfect gardener out there who gets everything right all the time. That's amazing. That's awesome. Maybe I'll meet them one day and I can learn from them. But I just spied another. Aren't they're so delicious and perfect looking. So this makes up, and the basil is I can't wait to harvest some of this soon. I've already taken, pick him off, already taken my first harvest of basil. We've had so many beautiful yellow squash and zucchini. I've harvested today a whole bunch of jalapenos. The okra is doing really great. So, the capsicums, did I mention? I don't think. They're in the section of garden that is a disappointment section, and they are not doing well. The capsicums are not doing well, which is a really big shame because my kids love capsicums. Like, they eat them like apples. They just love them. And I was really hoping to get a big crop of those this year, but it was not to be. Who knows? They may come good, but right now let me show you. They do not look great. Yumminess. Let me see. Yeah. So they're just looking a bit sad. I don't know. Like, yes, it has fruit on it. They're looking a bit anemic and weak. And like this one looks like he's going to kind of, before it's ripe, it's starting to shrivel. So same with that one. So yeah, I'm not sure. Again, an opportunity for me to learn, because I'm really not sure what's going on with the capsicum. Could be, and I do think a lot of times it is the soil, really. 9 times out of 10. There's something to be learnt and something to be fixed in the soil. So I can look at this a couple of different ways. I can walk through my garden and and this is probably what I have done in the past, if I'm really honest. I can walk through the garden and I can go, oh, I have failed with tomatoes this year. And I have failed with capsicums. Oh, and look at my beans. I've done something wrong with my beans. And oh, that's so frustrating. Or when the storm came and took out a big pile of my my squash, and I had all of my plants blow over in that raised bed with that big storm. I mean, you can get down about these things, and you can get frustrated, and you can get negative about yourself, or I mean it, because it is true, there are disappointments and there are frustrations. Or I can look at my garden, I can walk around, and I can take note of the imperfections. I can notice the yellowing of leaves and think, I need to, what can I do to fix this? What can I do to problem solve? But at the same time, let me rejoice that I have 3 baskets full of produce on my counter, my bench. Have I had that conversation with you? Counter versus bench. Anyway, on my kitchen bench, that's what I would call it, kitchen counter, there is food that's come out of the garden that we grew, and that is exciting. And I've been able to can things out of my garden. I've never done that before. So I guess what I'm saying is I am trying to count the wins and the blessings and learn from these other things. Ask around, look things up. I'm on a lot of groups, which I think that does help. There's so much availability of information now that you can search for and look for. Rejoicing in the beauty of the things that have done well, and knowing that there's always another season. I'm starting to get excited about a fall garden. So my summer garden is in, we're at full throttle right now. We've got things coming in, we're eating from the garden, we're sweating it out every day. It's so hot out here. But at the same time, yesterday in the middle of the day, it was kind of a quiet moment, and I sat down and watched some videos on prepping a fall garden, because that's something I haven't had to contemplate before. And I'm still trying to rewire this old brain from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere. So it is a challenge. I am reworking my neural pathways, trying to ingrain the right thinking. Don't pretend like you don't know. I am so mad with these chooks right now. Like, seriously cranky with these chooks. I was not going to film today. I'm not feeling fantastic, but I just have to show you this. I am so cranky. They might look all cute and fluffy, but they are not innocent. Look what they have done. Now the light's not great. I don't know if you can see. They've scratched in here. Somewhere, I don't know how many got in because I did not catch them in the act. I can just see the evidence. These guys were so close to being ripe. Beautiful big beefsteak tomatoes. Look at them. Completely decimated. And all of my garden's scratched to pieces. And down here, these ones, all pecked out. So I know they're just chooks being chooks, but my goodness, when they get in my garden, they're supposed to be in here. And we have this little ingenious system my husband came up with of sticking branches along this fence. And honestly, it is working. They do not get out over this fence. This is not where they escape. We have a temporary, I don't know if you can see, there's a poultry fence on that side. This is all just temporary until we can get, we're waiting on more cattle panels that we're getting to finish off that side. And I'm not actually sure, they were jumping up onto that piece of tin. And we shored up the fence to make it taller so they couldn't get out there. So I don't even know exactly where they're getting out. But every now and then we find one in here one or two, that's the first time they've really done damage. I have found that they've sort of pecked through the fence on the far side into the garden area, but they can only get their beaks through so far, and I have been inclined to go, oh well, they can have that little bit. But I don't know. I'm going to have to come up with a plan to keep them in here more securely. So cranky. So, garden disappointments. Yes. Errant chooks can get in and ruin your harvest. Bugs and beetles and disease and things can happen. But there's so much beauty and there's so much good. I think managing our expectations is one of the key things to being able to operate with longevity in the garden and be ready for the next season and the next season and the next season. And I actually think maybe that's part of why God gave us seasons, because when one season doesn't quite go as we hoped and expected, that's okay. We can tidy it up, pull it out at the end of the season, get what we can from it, learn some lessons, rebuild the beds, and start again. So, whatever season you're in, if you have had a bumper crop and your garden is thriving and you have just had everything go right, that is so awesome. Just soak it up, enjoy it. If you have had a challenging season, if you have had some crops fail, if you have had some disappointment, just know, I'm right there with you. And that is really, if we're all honest, I think a part of gardening, because it's a part of life. Life is not perfect and life can be messy and there can be disappointments and mistakes and things that go wrong. But take heart, dear one, there is always next season. So I hope this has been an encouragement to you. Whatever is happening for you in your garden, disappointed or blessed, I pray that you have a great day. Thanks for hanging out with me in my little garden today as I talk about what has happened for me this season. Sunshine and raindrops. Until next time.